the posters of the kidnapped Israelis being torn down on college campuses and in various cities around the world in recent weeks. People have been caught actually ripping them down. And again, I would just ask a very simple question. What the fuck is the point in doing that? Is that a slap in the face to Netanyahu, if that's what you think you are doing, or a slap in the face to the Israeli government, if that's what you think you are doing? You are not only horribly wrong, you dumb bastard, but you are hurting the people, the families, the friends of the people being held. But it's been my experience your life that people who would do such a thing have no fucking concern whatsoever. They are not compassionate people. They try to tell you, oh, well, we are so in support of Palestinian issues, we are going to rip down posters of people being kidnapped by a terror organization. What kind of bullshit is that? A man in a video posted on social media as he watches two young people in the University of Southern California. They were shoving wadded up posters into a trash can, and he took a video of them, and then he wrote this under the video, quote, "You should be ashamed of yourselves. You're making the conflict worse. I am not a fan of Hamas," end quote. Now, according to New York Times, as they report this in the weeks since the war began, these posters, which, by the way, were created by Israeli street artists, they have grown ubiquitous, papering public squares across the United States, Western Europe, and beyond. And they're available to anyone with an internet connection. You can get one if you want it. They can be printed out, pasted onto lampposts, storefronts, subway entrances. And they should be. They should be. I am a dues-paying member of Amnesty International, have been for decades, ever since Nelson Mandela was being held in prison on Robben Island in South Africa. That's how long I have been a supporter of Amnesty. And I mention this because they have a program. I haven't been the recipient of emails, or not emails, but mailings about this in the past couple of years. I'm assuming the program is still there. But Amnesty would send to their dues-paying members a list of people who are being held as what they call prisoners of conscience, people who were thrown into a prison because of their religious or political beliefs. And I'm not talking about terrorists. You know, South Africa, white government, Botha, tried to label Nelson Mandela as a terrorist. But Amnesty provides lists of names and brief bios and histories of why these people are in jail, these prisoners of conscience. And what we paid members are asked to do is to write a note, and they give you the address where the note should go, to the government holding people as prisoners of conscience. In other words, the idea is to keep the names, to keep the identities of people who are being held this way in front of as much of the public as possible, realizing that that kind of pressure, public pressure on these repressive governments, can have an effect. And that's what these posters are about. It has nothing to do, in my humble opinion, nothing to do with picking a side. I support the IDF. I support Hamas. I support the Palestinians. I support the Jews. No. This has to do with keeping in front of the public the names and faces of these people who are being held as a hostage, a prisoner, whose lives are in minute-to-minute danger. And a terrorist organization doesn't give a goddamn about human life. Hamas has made it clear that they do not. They do not. Netanyahu has made it clear that he does not give a goddamn about certain human life. I guess I could say the same about Hamas. But Hamas killed hundreds of their own Palestinian citizens in Gaza. Because so many of the Gazans did not like having Hamas, which they knew. The people of Gaza are not stupid. They knew what this organization was. And I know we can say, well, they were voted into office. Were they? Was Trump voted into office? Trump lost the election by 3 million votes. I'm talking about the 2016 election. But he still wound up as the filthy pig president of this country for 4 years. That's a whole different issue. I understand. But so many hundreds of thousands of Gazans did not want anything to do with Hamas. Because they understood Hamas is a terror organization, has no respect for human life, nor does Netanyahu if it is Palestinian life. He doesn't give a shit. Now, displaying these posters, in this country anyway, I'm sure it's true in other countries too, has become a form of activism. And again, the whole idea is to keep the names and faces of the people being held by this terrorist organization in front of the public. But removing the posters, ripping them down, is emerging as its own form of protest. And it is a dumb shit, stupid ass release valve. The Times calls it a release valve. I put the two modifiers in front of it. Dumb shit, stupid ass release valve. And it's also a provocation by people who are anguished by the Israeli government's treatment of Palestinians in the years before October 7th and since the bombing of Gaza began. I put myself in that group. I hate what the Israeli governments over the years have done where it concerns Palestinians. I hate it. But to translate that hate into ripping down posters of people who, because they were in a certain place at a certain time, now have their lives at risk by a terror organization is utter and absolute. Not only is it bullshit, but it's also another form of terror. That's what these Americans who are tearing down these posters are doing. They're committing acts of terror against people who are being held hostage. How dare you? Some of the people caught ripping these posters or destroying them, according to the Times, have been condemned on social media. A dentist in Boston and a person in South Florida, among others, have lost their jobs because of what they were doing. What the fuck is wrong with people? You know, I keep, oh God, that's my fallback meme, isn't it? What the fuck is wrong with people? Over and over and over again. I find myself saying that. Now, the people, according to the Times, and I have not taken an in-depth look, and actually cannot take an in-depth look at the mindset of people who rip down posters of hostages as a form of protest against government policies somewhere. And I'll never have the chance to do that. But according to the Times, people who object to the posters have derided the posters as wartime propaganda. Okay, I guess in the twisted mind of an idiot, that could be seen as wartime propaganda, putting up a poster that contains a name and photograph of a person who's being held by a terror organization. Wartime propaganda, huh? I guess in the same way that writing a letter to the government of Botha when Nelson Mandela was being held prisoner, that could have been, when I did that, that could have been seen as assisting a terrorist? Wartime propaganda on my part? This is fucked up. I mean, this is crazy. Saying that putting up a poster of a person held as a hostage is some type of propaganda. God. And people who are critics of the son of a bitches tearing these posters down have said that the act of tearing them down is anti-Semitic and lacking basic humanity. I don't know about the anti-Semitic attitude. It's probably there. Christ is all over the place. But I can address the idea that tearing these posters down indicates a lack of basic humanity. Of course it does. The son of a bitch is tearing down posters of people being held hostage. Is not only is it lacking basic humanity, but it is an action that is so totally fucked up that indicates the person doing it has, in place of a soul, a rock-hard, calcified lump, someplace where their soul should be. And I have tried, I have spent the better part of half a century trying to understand, trying to come to some workable understanding, not based in just pure, flat-out bigotry towards an other, trying to understand what it is that inspires so much hatred. As Nitzan Mintz said, it brought awareness of how hated we are as a community. Why? Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.